Good morning, Big Brother fans. It is Wednesday, September 12th. And as I discovered early evening yesterday, I didn't get my last CarCast posted until then. When thankfully, is it Allie? Tweeted at me and said, hey, did you not do a CarCast today? I was like, no, I did one. I even set it to upload. Well, I pushed the upload button and stopped looking at my phone and never looked at the app again. And when I went back and looked at the app, it said 3% uploaded. It stalled when trying to upload and never completed. I usually watch it to make sure it completes, and it didn't complete. So it's there. Those of you that didn't think I did one yesterday, you're hearing this one today. Well, you missed yesterday's. I don't think it's really worth going back to, although I did talk a little bit about 9/11 and Big Brother kind of stuff. But other than that, no, there's no news. We knew Casey wasn't going to use the power veto, and she didn't. So you're caught up. There you go. As far as what's happened since yesterday, I thought another boring night, and I actually watched Better Call Saul, the one show that I'm kind of regularly watching right now that's currently airing, and I watched Monday's episode, and I actually had the live feeds on muted as I watched it, and I was like, yeah, nothing's going on. They're just sitting and talking. You had Brett and JC talking outside, or I think it was Brett and JC. I think they were working out maybe, and then you had Casey and Angela upstairs in the head of household room. Oh, and then Tyler was cooking downstairs, and JC was walking around. It was just it looked like very much nothing particular is going on. And so I took a couple screen caps and posted, yep, another boring night, da-da-da-da-da. And then, I'm not kidding you, within 2 minutes of tweeting that out, suddenly I see Brett and Tyler are alone in the storage room. And it's like, what? I haven't seen them talk alone for a while. And so I quickly unmute and start listening. And sure enough, Brett's talking, we haven't talked in forever, and dude, and what's going on, and da-da-da-da-da. And the long and the short of it is Brett, and Brett was doing the majority of the talking here, saying, maybe we ought to take the shot and break them up, meaning Casey and Angela. We ought to go after them. This would be the time. And that, it's coming up here because whoever sends Angela to the jury is going to make the jury very happy. And how Casey she just tore that competition up. I thought I had a fast time, and Tyler's pretty much just like, yeah, I get it, yeah, I understand. It was all Brett and Tyler just not saying no. Remember when JC came to Tyler and it's like, you ought to put up Casey and Angela, and Brett was all, no, not doing it, too early. Well, Brett's saying, ought to go after Casey and Angela, and Tyler's not going like, no. Tyler's going like, oh, yeah, and just everything Tyler did was completely, and I tweeted this at the time, Brett's doing all the talking. Tyler's just listening and kind of nodding his head. He's not saying no, but he's not really saying like, oh yeah, that's what we got to do. Although Brett may have thought that's what Tyler was saying. That isn't what Tyler was saying. Tyler was very much doing the, oh yeah, okay, I understand, yeah. And, Brett's like, well, who's got to go next? And Tyler's like, well, I think we both know who has to go next. And I'm just like, wow, Tyler, way to just let Brett say the name that he's thinking of without you saying it. I think Brett was like, Angela, and Tyler's like, yeah, it was just, it's like, we both know what has to happen. Like that, we both know what has to happen next, right? And Tyler's like, yeah, what? He wasn't saying yeah, what? He's like, yeah, we both do, right? You tell me, and then I'll agree with you. That's how it went down. So Tyler again playing a very good game of being a yes man, and in his mind, I think it's a complete. I'm going to agree to everything you want, Brett, but I'm not going to be the one in control when it comes time to do nominations, or when the vote happens. I won't be I'll be the oddball. I'll be like, everybody else is voting this way. I got to vote this way. I don't control anybody, guys. I'm just along for the ride. And then at the end, he'll say, I was controlling everybody. I just told you what you wanted to hear. I mean, you can hear his speech. So, we know it's coming. Pardon me while I have a little bit of anxiety right now while I figure out, is there another detour again today? Because it seems like they're doing it in the morning and not, it's like they're waiting until, okay, no detour. All right, we're good. So, that happened, and I was like, okay, and then they broke up and they went their separate ways. And then, meanwhile, you have Casey and Angela talking alone, and I tuned into that, and they're talking about, and Casey's like, well, we've all gotten blood on our hand, talking about the group, the four of them, L6, even though there's only four of them at this point. Casey's like, Brett's the only one who hasn't got any blood in his hand. We ought to let Brett win head of household. I'm paraphrasing here, but the gist of it was, we ought to let Brett win head of household and tell him it's your turn to, get some blood on your hands. And I'm sitting there going like, oh, girls, you don't want Brett to win head of household right now because he's got you in his sights. As it turns out, this all comes apart, so don't worry for those of you that are worried about the safety of Brett, of Angela and KC. But it was funny to hear that conversation that they ought to let. Casey saying we ought to let Brett win. Tyler eventually. I'm cutting it short here because I don't have a whole lot of time, and frankly, some of it's. I mean, things were going on. Everybody was talking last night. Sam was getting reassured. Haley's getting reassured. JC, at one point, JC and the whole L6 group, actually the four of them did get to meet, which is something that Casey kept saying the whole time. We got to meet. We need to meet. We got to get to our meeting in before they shut down the outside because it's harder to meet as a group when the backyard is shut down. And so they did. They managed to get together. They reaffirm their loyalty to each other. And we're not going to, if there's a temptation offered, we're not going to take a temptation. We're sticking together. Yeah, right. We know that this isn't exactly how they're talking when they're away from each other. But for now, we're going to stick together. Downstairs, you have JC and Haley talking, and Haley going like, why are the four of them upstairs? I think something's going on. And JC's like, nah, I don't think it's anything. So, it's like, oh yeah, it is, JC. You're mistaken. And so there's a few moments of mistaken things here. You have Casey mistaken, thinking that Brett needs to get blood on his hands. You have JC thinking nothing's going on. And then you have sorry, I'm going through the construction zone now. Now that L6 meeting happened, now we get Tyler alone with KC. Now remember, Tyler has said KC was his final two, has been his final two. And this conversation pretty much to me reaffirms that he still has KC as his final two. He does let KC know that Brett is gunning for him and Angela, and Casey's a bit taken aback and surprised, but he lays it out. He says, no, this is what he said, and so it's like, whoa, okay. And so Brett in some ways kind of, now look, it was happening no matter what, but Brett kind of potentially sealed his fate with the alliance, although he was always the fourth man out. So Casey's disillusionment with Brett for not willing to stick for the final four is a bit, come on. Really? You guys have been, the three of you have been meeting together. You've excluded Brett, whether you realize it or not. He sensed it, and now he's trying to find a way out. If you really are thinking if you're going to go after Brett later on and go, dude, you're the one who decided to go after us. It's like, no, you shut me out. I'm defending Brett. But the gist of the conversation with Tyler and Casey had is that they are willing at this point to break their alliance and backdoor Brett if necessary this coming week, the next eviction after Haley. They are willing to keep Sam and JC over Brett. So I believe that much more than I believe Tyler's conversation with Brett. It's very apparent that, Tyler was not serious when he was talking to Brett, or only as serious as he needed to be. Meanwhile, Tyler is actively suggesting ways to get rid of Brett to KC. I mean, it's just, that's how it goes. It's nothing new. It's the way it's been. And also that Tyler is willing to get out Angela. At least talking to KC, he's willing to get rid of Angela over he's willing to cut her next. I have not seen or heard of conversations between Tyler and Angela where they've discussed we may have to cut KC. I have seen conversations between Tyler and KC where they've discussed getting rid of Angela. And to me, that tells you where Tyler's loyalties lie. Unless there's some unspoken, alliance between Angela and Tyler, that they're going to say, well, we just never had to talk. We just knew each other so well. I don't think that's the case. So, very well could have Brett out next. And that could be interesting. It'll help KC and Angela's game. I think Tyler, I don't know. I think KC has the potential to take this. If I were Tyler, I would not want to be in a final with KC. That's my thinking. I don't think KC has betrayed anyone. It depends on how you look at it. If you look at it as good gameplay or bitter jury, I think KC is less. I think personally that KC is less of a negative. Could be wrong. I mean, but with the jury, I think KC has less of a negative than Tyler. Only because Tyler played more people. But if they can respect Tyler's game, if they can respect Tyler's, multiple Final Two alliances and all that, they might be willing to give it to him. But if I were Tyler and KC, I would rather take anybody but Tyler or KC to the final. So we'll have to see what happens. What else? That's it. I mean, there was that's the majority. There's JC still obviously seems to think he's got more control than he does. He's in for a rude awakening at some point. I just don't know when. I don't see JC going to the finals, but maybe he will. But not winning any competitions is not something to brag about. I don't care. If I were a jury member, someone telling me I managed to get to the finals without winning anything, that's not a reason for me to vote for you. Maybe it would be for you. Think about it. You go all the way to the finals, and the person says, I made it here without winning anything. Would you say, you're right, wow, you did, I'm going to vote for you? I don't know. Yeah, you didn't win anything except for the finals. I just don't know if I would ever vote for a person to do that. Did Dr. Will ever? Maybe Dr. Will did. I don't like calling him Dr. Will. I mean, Will Kirby made it to the final. Did he make it to the finals? Was that part of his selling point? Was he made it to the final without? I mean, he was nominated a ton of times, so I guess maybe he might have. But that's a whole nother. Will is a whole nother animal. JC is not a Will Kirby. He's not. Anything else to what I got for you guys? Because I'm in my parking garage. I'm driving to a spot. don't think so. I think we've covered everything. I think I'll remember to upload this properly next later on in a little bit once I get into work. And yeah, all's good. Should be a interesting show tomorrow night. Tomorrow morning, I don't know if I'll have any news for you. I think this stuff that went on tonight was the biggest action we've had in quite a while, and it filled out some of the story, and now we have a better idea of what's going to happen. So people shouldn't be surprised if Brett ends up walking out of the house second Thursday night. I also won't be surprised if he doesn't. But there you go. Everybody take care. We'll see you later and talk to you Thursday. Bye-bye, everybody.